Hi, my name's Aaron Steppert. I'm the Data Centre Field Marketing Manager for Dell in Australia and New Zealand. Today I get the great privilege and pleasure of talking to you about a lesser known capability that we have here at Dell, revolving around customer efficiency, and it's called the Virtual Integrated System. One of those particular challenges really revolves around budget. So if we have a look at what budgets are doing in the IT marketplace today, we actually see about 80% of their IT budget spent on things like keeping the lights on, with only 20% being driven into an organisation, allowing them to innovate, or in short, to grow and thrive. One of the other challenges that we see customers have is they're faced with islands of infrastructure, which tends to bring about inefficiency. So you've got the network guys think they're the rulers of the earth, and you've got the server guys who have their process and they're the rulers of the earth, and then you've got the storage guys and they own the earth as well. So between all those, they typically have different reporting structures, and you start finding inefficiencies and challenges in the environment through something basically people, process and technology. And these things are all also inhibitors and challenges for a customer, because it delays the time of which it takes, or actually increases the time of which it takes, I should say, to deliver a workload to an end user. Another challenge we see is to do with cloud and what cloud computing promises to deliver. The largest challenges with that is the path that the customer takes. Do they approach the cloud from a perspective like a Facebook or a Google, where it's massive data centers and thousands of nodes, which is a high thing to achieve? Or do they take the evolutionary approach, where they take their infrastructure, they put an overlay on there, they virtualize, and they go down that path to give them that track into what is defined as a private cloud, but getting all the benefits that you see in the public clouds like Amazon today? Yet another challenge that customers also face is how do they scale their workloads? How do they take their workloads in time of boom or bust? So if there's a workload that's scaling up, how do they scale their infrastructure to meet that demand? How do they get the agility built into that environment? One of the key benefits around going down the path of deploying the virtual integrated system, which I talk about a bit later, is really shifting that spend from the 80-20 that I mentioned earlier across to something more like a 50-50. And that is our goal under our efficient data center stream, is to move that finance spend, so rip that 30% out of what you're doing to keep the lights on, and put it back into delivering innovation and capability into your business. Another business benefit is all to do with governance and performance management. So being able to put a cost around the workloads that we need to deliver, and based on that workload also being able to look into the future to say, well, if I've purchased this workload and it's large, for example, do I actually need a workload that's big? Will the same workload work just as well in a medium environment? So we start looking at right sizing, which is an inherent benefit, and certainly revolves around efficiency. Another key benefit that comes from solving the earlier challenges is all around people, process and technology. And implementing these systems around the virtual integrated system, what you start seeing is more of a synergy between things like your server team, your storage team and your network team. If you have the synergy going between those silos in your environment, you actually see a much more streamlined workload delivery, which ultimately ends up in a happy end user with a shiny new application. The virtual integrated system really delivers upon a promise that I guess all vendors made to the IT community some time ago, around having solutions that were open, capable and affordable. VIS really focuses around business process optimization, with the end result again being that happy end user with a shiny new application. The way we deliver this is in a multiple different tiers. The first tier really revolves around intelligent infrastructure. And by intelligent infrastructure, we're talking around servers that have embedded intelligence. So if you're using a Dell technology as an example, that is the lifecycle controller and what it can deliver. If you have a look at storage, storage is really to be virtualized. So you get all the dynamic benefits of being able to migrate storage pools dynamically and scale linearly as well. And from a network perspective, we look at it from network convergence. So we're not saying that single-use networks are dead as such, but we're going to be saying you'll get more efficiency out of converging your network and your storage infrastructure over a common fabric. And that common fabric is 10 gig Ethernet. And the great thing around futures from that as a technology standpoint is that the next steps you see from 10 gig Ethernet are arguably 40 gig and then going on to 100 gig. So these are the key benefits that by having an intelligent infrastructure, we can solve some of those challenges and build an efficiency at that layer. The next piece of the virtual integrated system really works to collapse the number of, or the many panes of glass that you have. I think we've all heard a lot of people talking for some time around having a single pane of glass. And how realistic is this? Probably not very realistic at all. But if we can collapse the number of panes of glass that you have, then that certainly is another driver towards efficiency, and it will also inherently allow your administrators and those people who are responsible for workloads to be able to manage more with less. And that's what our integration suites do. So the VIS integration suites will take the virtual machine manager of choice, and the great thing about being open is that we will support not only the mainstream hypervisors like VMware of this world, but we also look at the Hyper-Vs and the Xens of this world also. And we will build in the integration suites to be the glue that adheres all these components together and all the benefits that our technologies and solutions bring. The last thing we look at is the delivery center. And the delivery center takes into account two key components. The first one is VIS Creator. And VIS Creator gives you this self-service catalog. So rather than having a situation where you've got an application user, for example, or an end user, and they need some compute power, and due to the times of how it takes to implement a particular workload, and typically we see that in the form of weeks, the end user now through the cloud has the ability to take their American Express or their credit card and swipe away, and they've got compute power in a matter of hours. The VIS Creator delivers that stack from your private cloud. So you'll have your various workloads, whether that's a small, a medium, or a large, and they'll have a cost associated with that. And the Creator gives you the option to say, yes, I'd like a large workload or several of those. Here is the cost, and that will be billed to my business unit accordingly. What that also builds in, of course, because we've now got a cost associated with that, is something known as chargeback. And the chargeback is that actual billing process, and it really does focus on identifying where the cost to my project or where the cost to my application is. Then we move on to what's known as VIS Director. And VIS Director is the piece that delivers what I mentioned earlier, which is the governance part and the performance management. So if you have a look at what we do from a workload at a particular point in time, you'll see that the governance part is, well, is this workload actually moving? And what happens, casting my mind back, is this workload still doing what it needs to do, and the historical charges associated with that. But from a performance management, this is what gives us our foresight. This is like our capacity management. So we start looking into the future to say, well, my workload, I scaled it up for to be large, it's actually only requiring a small workload. So let's dynamically migrate that to the appropriate workload. And I'll refer back to something in the intelligent infrastructure stack known as Dell Advanced Infrastructure Manager. And the great thing around AIM as part of that infrastructure suite is it also contains the ability to not only move from physical to virtual, but virtual to physical. It brings the capability to do the provisioning across server, storage, and network. And the true benefit wrapped around the entire VIS solution is that it is truly open. So we're not just talking about managing Dell servers, Dell storage, Dell network. We're also looking at managing Hewlett-Packard servers, IBM servers. we're looking at NetApp storage, we're looking at HDS, looking at EMC, and of course Equal Logic. And from a network perspective, we're looking at not just, again, Dell, we're also looking at Brocade, we're looking at Cisco, and there's a lot of other platforms coming out as the platform matures and goes forward. Another challenge that we see in the market today is customers have been almost forced down the path of being locked into a proprietary infrastructure. So, it's the one vendor for the server, it's the same vendor for storage, the same vendor for network, and this inherently gives you no flexibility. It also introduces risk into your environment, and that's why the open approach adopted by Dell is really a true enabler to get better return on investment for what you've already spent money on for your previous solutions, but it also gives you a clear path for innovation, and more importantly, it gives you choice going forward in delivering your workloads.